Hi folks, this is Jay. Just want to share with you about something that the atheists, many atheists, not all atheists, but many atheists deny, or in denial about, and lie about, and that is this, is that they have faith. They have faith in certain things that they have not got evidence for, they have not got proof for. They have presuppositions, and many atheists are in denial of this. Some of them have come round to accepting this. Someone like Thunderfoot recently had a debate with Hovind, and he and a few of the kind of people around him have come to the conclusion that there are presuppositions that you can't prove, that you can't get round. But there are a lot of atheists that have not come to this conclusion, that are in this sort of delusional make-believe world that all that they believe is rational and they have evidence for it. So I'm just going to share with you that this idea that atheists have got all their beliefs based on reason and evidence is just a complete myth. Alright? So I'll show you, for example, on the issue of science and probability. Alright? At the turn of the early 20th century, science began to redefine itself. Influenced by David Hume, a philosopher who lived a few hundred years before, Hume sort of was very skeptical about knowledge. This kind of skepticism about knowledge seeped into science round about the early 20th century. Scientists began to see that when they study nature, that when there's an interaction between a particular aspect of nature, whether it be your sense perception of, say, a tree, or whether you're observing gravity or whatever, within the interaction of a scientific law, or an interaction between your experience and something in reality, in between that observation of your experience and the contact of that object, whether it be a tree or an observation of a scientific law, scientists realized that there were things within contingency, within the effective action of that particular experience. Within that contingency, there were things happening that they couldn't actually observe at the deeper structures of reality. So because of that, they changed science's understanding on the issue of probability. They began to be a bit more humble on what they said was a fact. So they developed a gauge of scientific probability, so that a theory that they believed was true had a high probability. Then there were theories that were seemed to be correct, but they had a medium probability, and then they had some scientific facts had a low probability, etc. And there was a gauge of probability that sort of influences science today. But it's based on this reality of the fact that within contingency, within the interaction between an experience or between a law within nature, there are things within that science cannot observe. Alright, so they just assume that what they're seeing is correct, but they don't know for sure. Alright? So you just got to assume in the end that your observation is correct, but you don't know for sure. So that's just an example of the deeper structures of reality. We can't know for sure. So we just have a presupposition that the scientific method works, but we don't know what goes on in this issue of contingency, you see. Alright? So we just assume that everything's okay. But there's a possibility something could come into nature, punctuate nature, punctuate our observations, that might completely change our understanding of science, or change our understanding of a field of knowledge. So we just assume. Alright? And so that's just one example of an assumption, and you could go on to analyze any aspect of reality and deconstruct it. And as you deconstruct that aspect of reality, it's dependent on it comes to an end. So you can go to you can go to this Bible, and then you look at the chapter, then you look at the word, and then you analyze the word and the ink of the word, and what's the ink made of, and then you go to the deeper structure of the ink, and it's made of quarks, and then you come to whatever comes after quarks. But in the end, you come to an end of that particular reality. You could take this mouse thing, you could take this phone, you can take the clock, my clock, and as you analyze it and break it down on its atomic level, it disintegrates in your hands. It disappears. As it disappears, you realize that there's things beyond reality, something beyond reality, that reality is based on things that we don't know. So, and we don't know how that interacts with reality. So we just assume that reality is real. Okay, it's just we just have that assumption. But we can't prove it. We can't prove it ultimately. We just assume. So those are just two examples that I've just given you. And a lot of atheists go around deluding themselves, totally deluded, that they are these clever people who are rational, who base everything on science. And their fundamental beliefs of science and rationality are based on faith. It's based on certain presuppositions that they can't prove. What that means is it's just a myth that when these atheists come along to you who say, I'm rational and I have everything that I can prove by reason and evidence, and you're not rational, well, I'm sorry, but you've got, as an atheist, irrational things that you can't prove. So be honest about it and stop being so proud and arrogant and dogmatic. Alright? So it's just a little thought there about I should call them dogmatic atheists, really. Not all atheists are like that, but there are these dogmatic atheists about. So beware of them and don't be intimidated by them. Take care and God bless.